Fulfill the will of God for your life. Seek God and find out what that is. There are people who will hear this and say, so I'm not supposed to have any fun or enjoyment. I'm just going to run around doing the work of the Lord all the time. Listen to this. Your whole life is a light and a testimony. If you're being led by the Spirit, you will experience many things every day while you work and play. But since you are a new creature, you are what Jesus calls the salt of the earth. You are the candle light that sits on the table for everyone to see. So you are mindful of what you do. Not just because you're trying to be better than everybody else, but you're trying to represent peace. You're trying to represent what joy looks like and sounds like. What to live a peaceable life really looks like. To move in the spirit realm, casting out devils wherever you go, laying on of hands, praying for one another, having enjoyment and pleasure that honors God, not dishonors your own body and God. Not questionable things that people could possibly put one way or the other one, but having a clear idea of what it means to walk in the Spirit and to be separate. 1 Peter 2:9 says, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should shew forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Listen to the definition of the word peculiar. The word peculiar as an adjective describing us, as Peter did, you are strange, quirky, odd, or weird. As a noun, it also makes us, describes peculiar as set apart, different. The Greek definition of the word peculiar, once I looked it up, it just means God's own. Now, I heard the other day somebody say that we are all the children of God. I'm not going to go there. Maybe in the future the Lord will lead me to talk about that. That is not the truth. Those that are led by the Spirit, the Bible tells us that, they are the sons of God. We are all created by God in the image of and likeness of him, but we do not all serve him. And those that don't choose to serve him do not, I repeat, do not, whether you like it or not, do not walk in the Spirit and do not receive the blessings and promise of God. We all live by his grace, but his promises are to those that choose to follow him, who take their free will and they aim it towards God and say, God, thank you for this free will, but I'm giving it back to you and I'd rather have yours. And I'm going to keep going because I could go somewhere completely different, but I'm not. Acts 9, Ananias and Saul are both vessels that God uses. Let me read it to you. Now Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked for letters from him to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the way, both men and women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. And as he was traveling, it happened that when he was approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him, and falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Remember, the church is the body of Jesus Christ. But rise up and enter the city, and it will be told you what you must do. And the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the voice, but seeing no one. And Saul got up from the ground, and through his eyes, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. Leading him by the hand, they brought him to Damascus, and he was 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. So he was so devastated. I mean, can you imagine this? Walking down the street and then you're being struck blind. You hear this voice, you see this, and then you are struck blind. Now there was a disciple at Damascus named Ananias, and the Lord said to him in a vision, this is verse 10, and he said, and the Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias. He called Paul by his name. Now he's calling Ananias in a vision. Ananias. And Ananias responds, "Here I am, Lord." And the Lord said to him, "Rise up and go to the street called Straight, and inquire at the house of Judas for a man from Tarsus named Saul. For behold, he is praying. And he has seen in a vision a man named Ananias come in and lay hands on him so that he might regain his sight." But Ananias answered the Lord, "Lord, I have heard from many about this man, how much harm he did to your saints at Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all who came in your name." But the Lord said to him, "Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake." So Ananias departed and entered the house, and he laid his hands on him and said, "Brother Saul," remember, listen now. I spoke in a video once how Jesus declared who was his mother and who were his brothers. Those that do the will of the Father. So he is recognizing Saul after God has spoken to him and told him in the spirit who Saul really was. That he really was a man called for God's purpose. So he recognizes him as that and calls him that. "Brother Saul, the Lord sent me," that is Jesus, "who appeared to you on the road by which you were coming, so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit." And immediately there fell from his eyes something like scales, and he regained his sight, and he rose up and was baptized, and he took food and was strengthened. Now remember, when this first happened to him, he didn't eat anything. Now he has been strengthened by the Holy Spirit. This whole interaction between Saul and Ananias and Jesus is a supernatural occurrence, where the man of God, Ananias, is available for God's use. When God spoke, he jumped up and he did what he was told to do, even though he had questions. Because remember, in the other video I just said, if you don't understand, you have to ask questions. It's nothing wrong with answering a question, but understand that God is the authority, and whatever he tells you, do it. Remember, Mary said that to the men at the wedding about concerning Jesus. Whatever he tells you, do that. Do that. Matthew 8 and 19. Let me keep going. Then a scribe came and said to him, "Teacher," we're going to Jesus now, "I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "The foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." And another, verse 21, and another other disciple said to him, "Lord, permit me to go and bury my father." But Jesus said to him, "Follow me and allow the dead to bury their own." Jesus is calling them. These two instances coincide with what I was just talking about being available when God calls you. The teacher says, "I will follow you." So Jesus says to him, "Listen, if you're coming with me, just know I don't have nowhere to lay my head. I'm about my Father's business. I don't stress about that kind of stuff. So if you're needing a place to lay your head, just know that's not what we do here. The foxes got holes, everybody, but me, I don't have anywhere to lay my head. I follow. I'm moving and walking by faith. God provides my daily bread. I am moving and operating it by the will of God. So if you're looking for comfort, this ain't